and burn.
Hey everyone. So tonight I want to discuss the film Wildfire. Now, if I'm not mistaken, this came out back in 2020, if memory serves. And what this story is about, essentially, is two sisters, Lauren and Kelly, um, whose lives sort of fall apart after the death of their mother. And it seems to twist Kelly up so badly that she takes off, and the movie begins when she chooses to come back home, I believe, after being missing or absent from her sister Lauren's life for about a year. And that's when we meet both of them, when they have reconnected after this period of estrangement. Now, I know that this movie is heavily tied in to issues with the IRA, and whereas that is a very prevalent part of this film, and it's a prevalent part of the overall narrative. For me, I felt that this was more like it was more like a classic case of like the folie à deux, you know, the whole like shared madness where Lauren, who seems to be more or less completely normal, she's got her significant other. They live together. She works in what seems to be like an Amazon level fulfillment center somewhere wherever they live in Ireland. The place is massive. It's very Amazon ish. Now, of course, technically, you see no Amazon logos, and we're not in any way led to believe that this is supposed to be Amazon. But that is, of course, what immediately springs to mind when you see where Lauren works. And then when Kelly comes back into her life, at first, they're not really hitting it off. Lauren's pissed at her for leaving her, and but before long, they mend that fence. But it just seems like Kelly is clearly suffering from some form of mental illness, and she's perfectly lucid and everything. Like she lives in the now with the rest of us, but she's just sort of, I don't know. I don't want to say she's given to like mood swings or given to just sort of bad behavior. She just sort of lends herself out to it. But pretty much right away, she starts getting in trouble with things like early on. She sees this guy littering. He tosses a bunch of like I think fast food stuff out of his car, and she goes chasing after him. And Lauren's like, "Whoa, Kelly, what are you doing? What are you doing?" And Kelly's like, "Listen, bud, you were fucking littering," and he just plows her. He punches her right in the face and like busts her nose. I didn't see that coming either. And there were these kids were there, and they recorded it and put it up on the internet. And it just seems like that's kind of the way things go for Kelly. Like she doesn't really fit the mold of what society expects people to be. And it's not that Kelly is so rebellious, like she's so fucking punk rock about everything, but it's more like she's just like a permanent outsider, and her behavior just starts to spiral. She's taken to swimming in this lake, or yeah, I think it's a lake of some kind, and these kids start hanging out with her, like these little kids, and it gets to the point where she holds one of them under the water, this little boy, and whereas I don't think she had any sort of, there's nothing malicious behind her actions of holding the kid under the water, but it did freak him out. When the kid reaches the surface, he's like, "You're crazy. I'm fucking telling on you. That's it. This is done." And him and his two friends take off saying, "Mom, mom, mom, this chick tried to drown me." That comes back to haunt her in a little while too, because the kid's parents confront her. And, anyways, so before long, it seems like Lauren is sort of. It's almost like Kelly's a really bad influence on Lauren, because before long, Lauren is behaving more and more like Kelly. And there's this one scene in particular that stands out, and that's when they're at the bar. And at first, I thought they were alone in the bar because they're like fucking scissoring each other pretty badly at this one point, and they're all sweaty and shit, and they're kind of like over dancing to this song that's on. And like I said, I thought they had the place to themselves, but then of course the camera reveals the where they were was on the dance floor, and the front part of the bar, of course, has other patrons sitting there drinking, and they're all like gawking at Lauren and Kelly as they sort of like tie and untie their bodies like a pair of pit vipers, to directly rip off Pig Destroyer there somewhat, Jennifer. But it's true. That's what they're kind of like, and they're separate beings, but they're one entity. You know what I mean? Like they can coil through each other, and I don't know. Before long, Lauren's life starts to fall apart as the result of her becoming just as close with Kelly as she was prior to Kelly taking off. Lauren loses her job. She starts to take everything that's involving Kelly a little more personally than she probably should. She freaks out at work when she finds out that a couple of her coworkers and friends are watching the video of Kelly getting punched in the face from the guy who she was yelling at for littering. And that's sort of it. Lauren freaks out, and then next thing you know, she loses her job, and her boyfriend's like, look, we're putting Kelly in a home, and then Lauren's like, there's no way you're doing that. She's my sister. And it just seems like Kelly's reintroduction into Lauren's life has had such a detrimental effect that things were better when Kelly was gone. Lauren had a greater sense of normality, and she seemed to have a more structured sense of purpose. But now with Kelly's reintroduction, that's all gone to hell. So for me, that's what this movie was about. It was about a shared madness. And I loved this movie. I've watched this movie at this point. I think I've watched it 4 times. I thought this was great. I believed the characters. I believed the setting. Everything about this was so genuine, and it was just so, it was so legit looking that I bought into it completely. So yeah, so this is pushing 7 minutes, so I am going to stop. So thank you so much for hanging out with me for pretty much 7 minutes while I discussed the 2020 film Wildfire. The hell was that? Nah, it can't be. It's nothing. Yes, like always, if you liked this review or discussion or whatever this was, don't forget to do something nice for somebody. I am going to go. Have a good night. I just wanted to say thank you for making it through the entire video. I really appreciate it. And I'm going to remind everyone one more time, even though I've probably already done this in the video that you just watched, to please click the like button as well as the subscribe button because it helps this channel grow. And thank you for hitting like and subscribe, and we will see you guys really soon.